If you watch this channel on a regular basis, you know that one of my biggest things that I like to focus on is the different ways of effectively managing stress. I like to give you as many tools for that proverbial toolbox as possible. But sometimes it's important to look at the root of where your stress is coming from, the root of the stressors. And today I want to talk to you about just that. I want to talk along those lines. Many of you may have heard of this concept that originated in Japan. This idea, the word is Karoshi. And literally, Karoshi is referring to death from overwork. When it comes to certain societies, certainly the work ethic in Japan and many of the Western societies, including the United States, for example, we can identify where work and work ethic, work habits are taken to such an extreme that they can be harmful, not only to our happiness and to life balance, work-life balance specifically, but it can be harmful to our health, our physical health, our psychological and emotional health. And in certain extreme cases, it can lead to death, whether it's death from failing health that is caused by overwork, or death from stress, which may cause some people to commit suicide, or it may even happen right at work where people die while working because they have been overworking their bodies and their minds without proper self-care, without proper breaks, without proper nutrition and rest, to such a degree where the body simply gives out. So now we're looking at a whole new level of stress, but it's one that happens more often than maybe you realize, more often than we'd like to realize or recognize or accept, but it's very real. And as I mentioned, this phenomenon actually has a dedicated term to it, and it comes to us from our counterparts in Japan. Having been exposed to, but also really surrounded in such an unforgiving work culture, such an extreme work ethic for a long time, generations really, can make it difficult to, one, see it for what it is, see the dangers of it. But it can also make it difficult to make a change, to do something different, to give up that kind of work ethic, that kind of unforgiving, toxic, deadly work habits, if you will. Couple that with a cultural acceptance of such extreme work practices, work ethics, if you will. And it can make it even that much more difficult, because if you are an individual who is trying to do something different, you may be pressured by your colleagues, by your peers, by your employer, by society. You may be bullied, you may be singled out or labeled as being weak or not a good employee. But we have to break through that. We have to get past that. And one way of working towards that breakthrough is honestly talking about it and being very frank about it. It is true that people die, literally die from overwork, whether they die because of a failed health or because they die at their own hand with their own choice to end their life. the result is the same. People die from overwork. And this is a form of stress to the extreme. So whether you find yourself in a work culture or in a work ethic that is that extreme, or one that's somewhere in the neighborhood, or one that's pretty elevated in terms of its toxicity and in terms of how unhealthy and dangerous it is, it doesn't have to be at the very end of that spectrum. It can be in other places on that spectrum, but it's still causing stress to your physical being, your psychological and emotional well-being. So we can't be silent about it. We can't pretend it doesn't happen. We can't think that it doesn't happen here, it won't happen to me, it happens elsewhere, it happens to others. This is real. And I want this to be a wake-up call for so many of us who take pride from being overworked and being overly busy and sacrificing beyond what is reasonable to sacrifice for one's work, for one's employer, for one's career. It's not okay. If it's hurting you, it's not okay. Because one day it may hurt you in the most extreme way possible. And we want to intervene and change long before that happens. So today, I invite you to think about that. Think about, what is your work culture like, work ethic like? Is it something that is harming you? Is it something that is to your detriment? Is it something that is leading towards that extreme? It goes beyond just regular stressors. This is the worst kind of scenario imaginable where people die as a result of overwork. So think about that, and think about how you can change the course that you're on currently, how you can change so that the stress of your work reality is not heading in that very extreme direction. The reality of things is that if we don't do anything to make a conscious change, we will probably continue to head in the same direction. So the responsibility is yours, but also the opportunity is yours to make a change in such a way that you will benefit from it, that you will start heading in a direction of health and happiness rather than a tragic ending. If you'd like to learn more about a comprehensive approach to stress management, check out the link below.